Welcome to WTF Us, where we are seriously this week thinking about WTF Us. It is horrible. We're all in different places right now rather than in the studio because we're all worried about COVID. I have COVID. Hopefully I won't infect anyone else. It's not so bad. And joining us.
Yes, don't give our computers a virus.
No, right? Let me sneeze all over it just in case. My computer's pretty high functioning, so maybe it would be good for it to infect you guys.
Maybe mine would start working.
Headphones on. What was that, Ara?
Yeah, maybe my computer would work if yours gave mine a virus.
I know. That's a good point. So yeah, we have Ariel down there in the blue, our recovering physicist, John with the headphones and the stylish glasses, who is our commander-in-chief of the studio, even though we're all at home right now. Dirk, our resident, awesomely educated and ex-Air Force retired person. I forgot what you did. Weapons controller.
He was a fuzz. He was the fuzz.
You did cool stuff, and you were a detective. And Tali joining us from Colorado.
I am in Colorado.
Which I think I can pronounce properly at this point. I'm so glad we're all together to talk about things going on in our country. I know there's so many things. So this show we are going to talk about, we rolled back Roe versus Wade. I don't know, I can't even say. Our nutty Supreme Court that represents none of us.
Yeah.
I mean, a minority. And then we're going to also talk about this January 6th hearings, if we can actually fit them all in one moment, and how it's all kind of actually tied together with like the overthrow of our government by a passionate minority. Dun, dun, dun. I mean, it's kind of so messed up and sinister, but this is what we're going to talk about today.
The interesting thing is that if they made a movie of that, no one would believe it.
Right?
They would no. That's just too unbelievable. But that January 6th committee is doing a hell of a job.
The Handmaid's Tale seemed like so imaginary when like the book, and then when the show started, and then it got to the point where like I can't watch the show. But even when the show started seeming like too scarily like what's going on, it was like, well, it couldn't happen that fast. Like,
yeah,
but everybody said the same thing about the movie Idiocracy too.
Yeah.
Did you see the new version of Idiocracy, the Don't Look Up?
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
It was quite good.
That was good.
I mean, they don't even have to make. I mean, you know the guys who did Vice? It was like the story of like the Cheney underground Bush presidency. It was awesome. These same guys did kind of like a historical fiction based on what happened during the younger Bush's presidency. They also did like a historical, very true to history, but you know, fictionalized movie about the priests messing, you know, the whole priest cover up and all the rape. They did another story about something else too. I think it was called Spotlight, about maybe that was, yeah. So I
saw that one.
Awesome movies to just kind of like look at what's really happening. And I can't wait for them to do one about this. Oh, they did one called The Big Short that was about the stock market collapse. And I feel like, I mean, they don't even have to make this up. Like it's already so crazy. And for those of you who don't know what happened, because you've been under a rock or something, the president and his closest advisors planned a coup, purposefully sent an armed mob to the Capitol, approved of phone calls to murder the vice president, and then refused to call the mob off until they were like pressured. And now we're finding out.
Let's be really clear with former president.
Oh yeah, former president, yeah.
Since we're
president at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, the acting president at the time. And then everybody involved asked for pardons, which many of them didn't get, some did. But rather than pardoning them, he's using his Trump is using his political donations to fund their legal fees, most likely, and which is something that might put him in jail, among other many illegal things that he also did. So yeah, how did this happen?
I have one comment about the whole election fraud theory, that if that was in fact true, and if the Democrats had in fact, fixed the election, people like Mitch McConnell, Marjorie Taylor Greene would not be in office, because if they could do that and would do that, they would have gotten rid of those people.
Oh, right.
Along with Trump.
Fixing a presidential election is huge.
It's like, hey, we can fix the election, but let's not fix the people that are creating all the problems and holding up, obstructing our progress in the country.
But the flip side of that is the most obvious, and this is the funniest part of it. If anybody would ever try to actually fix an election, it would be the people crying about having the election fixed, because they've already gerrymandered and done everything they can to screw up the votes. They've gotten rid of voting stations and everything else. So if anybody was going to fix the election, it would have been them. They're just so shitty at that on a large scale, but they can do it on the state scale, which I think is why they're really doing what they're doing. They're trying to get everything down to the states so they have more control.
Right.
Well, have you heard? The Supreme Court is doing so much right now that it's hard to even keep track of everything, because they're now accepting cases not based on merit, but based on what they can destroy. But they've now accepted a case that's that basically would make the federal government and state Supreme Courts no longer have any oversight over state elections. So
that's already that's already happening.
Well,
yeah.
If they decide that, it will make it a lot easier to to have fraudulent elections, basically, and gerrymandering and basically whatever whoever's in charge wants.
Yeah, the case that case is pretty much them trying to.
Right, they'll be allowed to decide, I
think is that state legislatures that are elected illegally based on gerrymandering are now going to be able to decide the outcome of the vote, regardless of what the results are.
Right, and
they'll have the authority to decide.
Yeah,
which is exactly what they were trying to do when they tried to overthrow this recent election. They were trying to have state legislatures certify false election results and then report those election results rather than the ones that actually happened. And that happened. I think it was Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Michigan.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania was involved. And I think there are at least 2 states that submitted false panels of electors, and the whole goal was that Pence was going to say that because there's these 2 different electors coming in, that we have to throw those results out, and then that would go to the Supreme Court. And we all know that the Supreme Court at this point maybe would have done who knows what they would have done. Clearly.
Well, now we're going to see.
Yeah.
Right. And with just what happened the other day about the EPA, they pretty much said that organizations that have been appointed to deal with large systemic problems in our country, like environmental pollution and protection, that those organizations no longer have any authority, and that if they want to have authority.
That's not true. They only have the authority that Congress has given them.
Right.
In other words, if Congress says you can look at this, and this, that's all they can look at.
Right, but they're pretty much saying no authority, because we all know what Congress does.
Right.
Nothing, right?
Right.
The thing is unless we vote and change the makeup of Congress, but if they pass, I think that's why they're cranking through these Holly, really fast is because they pass something that says like, well, regardless of what you vote for, we're not even going to count that.
Yeah.
And then voting won't, in all those red states, like voting won't even matter. And so then what? I mean, it's like, is it like time to overthrow the government? Is it time to riot more? Like time to move away? I don't even know. It's kind of,
they're only going to piss off, like they're only going to piss off like their audience if they start when they start taking guns.
Right. I find it absolutely fascinating that you have a Supreme Court that literally has 3 justices on it that lied. They specifically lied. Everybody knows that they lied, but they don't care. As long as they lied for the reasons that they needed to lie on. But you know, you're talking about the Supreme Court. You can't have people that deliberately lied on the Supreme Court. This boggles my mind.
The Supreme Court on purpose in order to get away with having their minority rule.
And that's why they're going to do as much stuff as they possibly can now, while they had as much of a majority as they could. They're just going, that's why they're zipping through all this stuff. They're trying to dismantle as much shit as they can before somebody either puts more people on the Supreme Court or they do something to counteract what these guys are doing now.
If I was any one of those members of the Supreme Court, I would literally be afraid to go out in public.
I mean,
without a bodyguard or some type of security force, because I really think that there are, you know, we always talk about the right-wing nuts out there, but there's some left-wing nuts out there too. And I
don't think the left-wing nuts have quite the firepower as the right-wing nuts, from what I've seen.
Pardon me?
I don't think the left-wing nuts have quite the same amount of firepower.
Oh, don't kid yourself. Don't kid yourself. I know on a lot of left liberals that own firearms and would use them just as easily as the idiots on the other side. So
there's that point where liberal and conservative meet back.
Yep,
exactly.
There's like gunless moderates, and then you go extreme enough, liberal and conservative, and you get to the mega arm side of things.
Right.
So
yeah, that's why I don't like to use the term the liberal whatever. It's like it's left wing and right wing. Those are all the real crazies over there. Because there's nothing wrong with being conservative. There's nothing wrong with being liberal.
Right.
They made those into insults, but they're not insults. Just really ticks me off that we've gotten so stupid that we use these labels just to trigger other people.
You okay, Rachel?
That's a 10. I'll give that a 10.
Mute myself before I cough out a lung. I'm okay.
But whatever you do not sneeze all over the screen.
Well, that'll spread it for sure. So we just found out that 4 days is the average transmission rate. So whoever I hung out with on Saturday or Sunday.
So
your cat?
He was very cute though. So, you know, if you're going to get covered from someone.
I know. I don't know if it was her.
Well,
sorry about your cat.
I should call her.
R.I.P. Rachel's cat.
I know, Meow Me died last night. Our wonderful cat of all the years we've lived here. But she lived in the yard, and she was a wild animal that chose to hang out with us. And yeah, and she got to die like at home in the comfort of her cozy spots with all the people that love her naturally, which just made me kind of happy, because I feel like euthanizing pets is always kind of a tough decision to know when to do it.
Yeah.
And it's really nice when you don't have to. You can just have a natural dying process. It was kind of beautiful, actually.
We found a vet that comes to the house, and if you're if your vet tells you that you need to do this, that she will come to the house and euthanize your pet right there. And that was awesome. That was, like you said, she got ours too, got to die right here. And, so anyway, with all the other animals around, what the fuck are you doing? No.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice when it's clear too that they're suffering so much that you need that choice and that we can compassionately give that to them. Maybe someday we'll do that for people.
Yeah, I hope so. They shoot horses, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, it do give people like hell of a lot of.
I know that's an old movie.
Yeah,
I think Washington and Oregon.
Oh yeah, they let you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. You need to go to the Pacific Northwest if you want a compassionate.
And you have to be able to, like, you have to be there long enough to, like, establish residency.
Okay.
I like the levity and options of the Futurama-style suicide booth.
Yes.
Can you say that again?
Futurama.
Futurama?
I just...
The suicide booth.
It's convenient. It gives you options.
I haven't seen that, but now I kind of want to, like, if we had those abilities, just splice in a clip of that, like right now. Oh, you guys, is it just so horrible to talk about all this crazy shit?
Yeah,
it's just there is so much shit going on that it's overwhelming, and it's like I don't know which to be pissed at first, or to what extent, or
I mean, these shiesty gangsters. I mean, Roger Stone, Giuliani, Eastman, like these like key player that the general guy, what was his name?
Ralph Nader.
No, like Lieutenant General, who was kind of all on the team.
Oh, wait. No, you're talking about shit. He was the first of the bunch, right?
Yeah.
That they shit. What's his name?
No,
he was the first one to get kicked out of the White House right after the election. He's been working with the Russians. What the fuck was his name?
Yeah,
I'm completely drawing a blank.
Oh, that the guy who just went to jail and got fined for bribing the Ukrainians. Not him. Someone else.
No, it was somebody
You're talking
else.
about the one who looks like an American eagle, or a bald eagle crossed with an American flag.
Yeah.
Oh my
God.
That guy.
That's the guy.
What's his name? Anyway, I mean, you had these people that were like key players in this whole scheme, like the president's chief of staff. And then like this, I mean, to perpetuate a lie, right? And it's kind of like now that it's come out, they 100% knew that Trump lost the election. He refused to accept the results. 147 elected representatives in our Senate and House voted for false results. 147 of our elected representatives voted to overthrow the American people.
And Mark Meadows' assistant coming forward the other day. What's it, Cassie
Hutchinson?
Yeah, that
amazing.
That took some guts. And anyway, I'm hoping that it is. She'll be an example for some other people that go, you know what? I just decided I don't want to go to jail.
But she's young, so she has a whole career ahead of herself. And I think, I mean, we talked about this, I think when it actually happened, like 2 years ago. It's like when a ship is slowly sinking. I mean, and this is like a huge ship, and it is sinking big, and it's like somehow they might be able to like jump on a new ship and like ride it till kingdom come and like overthrow the will of the American people and destroy.
But that's how dumb they think the average person is. That they think that we are not paying attention.
You know, like the Supreme Court thing and throwing out the vote for people in all the red states.
Who's super excited about Pat Cipollone getting subpoenaed?
Is his name Cipollini? Because I keep on thinking of him as like the endless layers of the onion being revealed. Because I am excited about it, and I think if they get him to testify, I mean, really, it's like Hutchinson's testimony was like, okay,
I mean, he's already pretty much been the star of the show. Like everybody,
he hasn't been on record or something. That's the
right, but like everybody's testimony has been like has like quoted him endlessly and talked about like what he was doing and everything that he said is hilarious. So, and he was like the angriest person. So I don't know. I'm glad they subpoenaed him, and I want to watch so bad.
Based on that young lady's testimony, I mean, it appeared that he was saying, "Hey guys, we shouldn't be doing this."
Oh yeah, from the beginning,
and
he was.
So it surprises me that he's not willing to step up and say, "Okay, here's what happened."
Because he's part of the bullying.
Pardon me?
It's the whole like bullying rhetoric of the Republican Party. Like once you stand out against them, your career is maybe.
Well, who's going to hire any of those people anyway?
They're going to hire themselves, and right now they're in power in our country in the legislative branch.
Right.
And they're going to fix the elections for the future till kingdom come, unless we figure out some way to do something about it.
Here's the problem. While we're looking at this, basically the biggest issue that I have with our country right now is we have a series of actions that are basically being predicated by people that either have a lack of intelligence or lack of morals, and they're creating havoc. But the problem is that it's almost like when we talk about systemic racism and people saying, "Oh, no, we don't have that." You only need to have a few people in the right places. That's all you need. And you can literally create havoc in the political system. And that's what the Republicans have done. They've managed to put these people that are either lacking in intelligence or lacking in morals in the right spots, and they can create havoc. And that's why you've got these idiots on the Supreme Court right now. And that's why they're trying to overturn all this stuff. So you can put, somebody in charge of the Secretary of State for each state who's going to be in charge of elections. You only need that one person in the right spot, and you can just fuck everything up. And that's what they're doing right now.
I like to imagine that Clarence Thomas just wants his marriage delegitimized.
That just came out?
Well, except that that's the one thing that they're not talking about dismantling.
No, I just like to imagine that
it was interesting that he went down that whole list without mentioning the Love versus Virginia decision. So
yeah, no oral, but
I mean, interracial testify. I mean, they want her to testify too.
Wait, did you say no oral? Well, that's
going to be illegal too. That's
covered by the sodomy thing,
You
right? No
heard
sodomy,
what the
no
Secretary
oral.
of State of Texas said, right?
What's that?
He's going to go and fight. He's going to take it to the Supreme Court to get rid of sodomy. So you got all these guys. They're just all this stuff is really important to them instead of gun control and.
Right. This is like the only time it's good to be like that specifically is like the only good time to be a woman.
I feel like this is like some weird bad nightmare of like when the leadership of the country all smoked crack that year. Or I mean, like what is going on?
That's a good analogy.
Well, wait a minute.
I'm
what's his name? Cawthorn? Didn't the guy in the wheelchair, Cawthorn, didn't he say that Congress had all these crack parties and shit going on?
Yeah.
So maybe that's probably true then. You're probably right, Rach.
Oh, Madison Cawthorn.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely know people that know the Trumps, which is kind of weird, but I've heard that their family is heavily into drugs.
What, the Trump family?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we all saw the RNC.
The Republican National Committee, they're all into drugs too.
Oh, the convention.
Yeah.
Where Don Jr. spoke.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, that might explain it, you know? Like maybe there's a sinister plot from the pharmaceutical companies that now that they have everybody on drugs to just like manipulate everybody to have their way.
You know, this is one of the
chip
few
in my
times
COVID
in my
vaccine
life,
is beeping.
this is one of the few times in my life when I've been able to, you know, we talk about other people that are that don't vote and don't get involved in the election process and stuff like that. And we get in their case, you know, as an American, you should be part of the process, blah, blah, blah. But I'm telling you, I honestly and truly, based on what I've seen the last few years, I understand exactly how they feel now. This is so absurd, watching what's happening to our government right now, watching people get elected that are so stupid they literally probably couldn't find their way to cross the street at a crosswalk. I'm absolutely baffled by how we can actually get together, some groups of people can get together and vote somebody to represent them in Congress, in the Senate, that are that fucking stupid or that immoral, that they've proven themselves to be immoral, that they've lied or cheated or done drugs or whatever, and they still vote for them. This, I'm telling you, man, this is just like, this is blowing my mind that this country has turned to this.
Because we've got, I mean, when it comes down to it, you have about, I think it comes out to about 30% of the population is actually voting these people is actually voting. Because I think
Wait, 30% of people are voting?
No. That of all of the eligible voters, there's like only 56% of those eligible voters registered to vote.
Okay.
Of that 56%, only 47% showed up at the polls.
Wow.
So you have 47% of 50% that's actually making decisions for all the rest of us. And that's why, go ahead, Ariel.
So could Obama have got another justice on the Supreme Court during his term?
Could he have?
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for McConnell and
the filibuster, right?
blocking the because that's what Garland. I mean, he had put Garland up there, and they wouldn't confirm him.
Yeah, he had months left, and they had blocked him.
He had 9 months.
Wouldn't have made their plan work.
So anyway, yeah.
Well, you know, you can say whatever you want to, but Mitch McConnell is basically the Gru, you know, from the Minions. He's the Gru of our time because he's a fucking supervillain, but he made all his shit work. He did exactly what he wanted to do all these years.
And horrible. I mean, it's kind of like, who would have thought that our country would be the country going down like this? If
any state had election fraud, it would be Kentucky. Because I can't see how, they are one of the poorest states in the country. I don't see how they keep voting this idiot into office. And he's not doing anything. And the coal miners, he wouldn't even meet with the coal miners when they came to his office.
But I'll tell you how they're doing it. It's one of the biggest, it's the second biggest frustration besides the other one I mentioned already, which is the Democratic Party is so fucking inept. They cannot get their shit together.
At times, you're right.
You have a villain right in front of you that's doing all these things for all these different reasons that I stated above, and you still can't figure out how to get people to say, hey, that's not right. We shouldn't be doing that.
Right. I watched a documentary last night about Nixon, which featured Michael Cohen heavily, who has been disbarred and definitely can't get a job. So it's possible to make that happen. But it was really interesting to see like the similarities. Like it was actually like very, like they were very similar people. and did very similar things. And yeah, just the difference was when people started figuring out what Nixon had done, everybody, like, I mean, he won his second term by a landslide, but people completely flipped on him when they started hearing that he was actually involved in Watergate. Like, everybody wanted him gone. And so I don't know. I don't know what the difference. I mean, I guess he didn't create a cult.
I think the difference is now, back in those days, they at least believed in the democratic process and they knew that he had done something illegal.
Right.
This
and
time,
he didn't have a cult behind him.
This
he just had people.
It's not, it's the cult, but there's also a bunch of people that just literally want to stay in power. They don't care what it takes. And if they can piggyback on this and get what they want, they're perfectly okay with that. They don't give a shit if it fucks up democracy. They don't care if it's illegal. As long as they can get away with it, if they can find a way to subvert what we do in this country, they're going to do it.
I mean, I think like Trump's advisory team, as bad as they were, protected him to some extent. You know, and history protected him to some extent, because if he'd like the Secret Service prevented him from going with the mob to the house, but apparently if he would have gone, that would have been something that he wouldn't have been able to walk back from. If he'd pardoned those people, that wouldn't have looked good. And also, like, he wanted very much to fire Jeffrey Rosen, his attorney general, like the lawyer for the president, pretty much. And Rosen was pretty much like, oh, if you fire me, if you ask me to resign, like, the entire department is going to leave.
Right, but that's
what happened with Nixon, and that's what made him look shitty, and that's why he got impeached.
That's not supposed to be his attorney. Like, that's supposed to be our attorney.
Right, the attorney for the country, right. So here's my question, and this is, I mean, we're all doing it, and we see it every day. We're all bitching about what's going on. We're all, you know, just, holy crap, I can't believe this is happening. So what do we do? How do we turn this around? What can we do? What can we do to make this not be happening? How do we?
I mean, I can tell you what I did, but that's not really the answer. It's not, I mean, I encouraged my daughter to not live in this country. I wouldn't want to have a daughter who lives in this country right now. Well, that's certainly not the fix for us, though. So honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, if you're privileged, you can move away from this shit show.
So
people won't be able to.
So if the roof leaks in my house, right? The instead of fixing the roof, the answer is move to another house.
Oh, I'm saying that's what I did.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying that's not the answer. That's
right. It's not.
Listen.
I think it's more than the roof, though.
Why so many Republicans are quick to say, if you don't like it, leave this country, because they want to have the ability to do exactly what they're doing now.
They want a fascist autocracy.
Yeah,
and that's what they want.
That's why I get so upset when people say, well, I'm going to move, I'm going to do this or that if they win, or fuck that. Your job as an American is to stay here and try to figure out a way to fix it.
That's right.
The thing is the roof isn't leaking. The house is on fire.
So let's put it out.
I agree.
How do we
so
put
back
it out?
when this happened, like at the before the Civil War, when states had control and the Southern Democrats argued for state control and wanted the democracy to reflect the will of rich white people and rich white male landowners, and tried to give power back to state governments. That's kind of like where we're finding ourselves again, except it's not the Civil War. At least there's not slavery. Like we are steps ahead, but like what had to happen there for that to change? Like Abraham Lincoln like founded the what, you know, the Republican Party back then. It's like, what, like, I feel like we will need a hero. Like we will need I think we need a hero, like somebody like an anti-Trump, you know, somebody who's like strong and motivated and convicted and smart, and like who actually can be the leader that we need to like inspire people to come together to do something better than what we've been doing. And I mean, I can't imagine that all these people in the southern states like want to be disenfranchised too.
We need a guy like the president of the Ukraine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that you have, the Democratic Party needs to demonstrate that they can actually do something other than just be upset and say that things are awful and wear the occasional kente cloth. Like, the Republican Party gets shit done. It might not be anything that we would want done, but I think a lot of people are disenfranchised with the Democrats for just not doing a damn thing other than thoughts and prayers.
If they could get,
we need an instant runoff non-two-party system, or the Democratic Party needs to show itself to actually be competent and able to do something other than meaningless symbolic gestures.
Okay, so Biden is now saying,
and we need to overthrow Citizens United.
Yeah, no fucking shit.
Return.
Get the money out of politics. But Biden just said recently that he's now for you know, maybe going after the filibuster. Yeah. They need 4 votes. They need 4 fucking votes to pull that off. Because they've got Manchin and what's her name, Sinema, who aren't going for it. So they got to get 4 Republicans, and you've got to, there's got to be somebody in that fucking party that can pull 4 Republicans. Liz Cheney would be one. I mean,
which other 3?
I don't know. It's just there's got to be some way to get those motherfuckers to say, okay, yeah, let's do it.
This is enough is enough.
I think
coalition building. I mean, that's Biden's strength, right? From what everything I've heard about him, he's good at bringing people together.
Here's the thing. I agree with you 100% when you said that you need to get somebody. We need to get someone who can
that people can rally around.
No, we need to get somebody who can convince Republicans and Democrats alike that this is the direction that we need to go.
Yeah.
And I don't know of anybody in politics that I could say right now can do that, but that's the kind of person you need. So you can have conservative people looking at him saying, you know what, that makes sense. That's the way democracy should go. And you have Democrats or liberals saying, yeah, I understand he's doing this for the good of all people. You have to find somebody who can balance that line and bring more people together, because right now with this polarization, you're going to have people constantly going at each other, battling them, even though this is where you get people that say, I'm not voting for him just because he's a Republican, or I'm not voting for him just because he's a Democrat. That's how polarized we've gotten now. It doesn't matter if the idea is good or bad. The fact is, if he's a Democrat, I'm not voting for him. And we've got to find somebody who can straddle that line and say, this is what we have to do for the good of the people. Obviously, we've got so many stupid people, they're still going to fall on that other line, but we have enough intelligent people in this country where I think if you could find somebody like that, that's how we save the country. I really believe that. I'm not really sure there's any other way to do it.
Unfortunately,
I think they've been trying to find someone who's straddled that line for a while. Like, I think the Democratic Party often tries to elect someone more centrist to be their candidate. And that just ends up leaving off a lot of the people who wish that they'd actually do something and have morals that they stand up by. You know, they end up watering down their environmental views or watering down their social rights views to straddle that line. And I feel like a lot of the people who have no love for the Republicans then end up just not voting or voting for a third party candidate, because they're like, well, you know, if it's a choice between Trump or just same establishment moneyed corporate bullshit that we've had going that's going to do nothing as far as affect real change, you know, people just get discouraged by that.
You're absolutely right, Ariel. And that's basically what I'm talking about. You have people that instead of saying this is what we need to be doing, they're scared to say anything at all because they want to be centrist, but that's not the kind of person that we need. What you're looking at right now, I can take this back to the civil rights thing too. It's kind of like the civil rights thing where after Martin Luther King was gone, we all kept trying to find somebody to take his place. And you can't find anybody to take his place. You need to be yourself and you need to do what you need to do. And they were so busy trying to be like him and it didn't work. So you've got to be able to find that one person that's able to do what they need to do without compromising their views or being scared they're going to piss. Look, if you got to piss somebody off, piss them off, but at least piss them off with conviction. Because what we've had is a bunch of candidates to get out there, they piss people off, but they don't have any convictions. They either back off from what they said because they're scared, or they won't bring it up in the first place because they're scared, or whatever the case may be. But if you've got somebody out there who's got the balls to say, this is what we need to do, I think you can actually change a lot of people's minds, including whether they're conservative or liberal.
Unfortunately, I think that the kind of person that we're all talking about isn't an American.
I was actually wondering if we could make New Zealand the 51st state and then elect Jacinda Williams.
Yeah.
Or like,
I think there's three possibilities out there.
I think Pete Buttigieg was really awesome. Really awesome.
Who?
Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, he was one.
Yeah.
Him, Beto O'Rourke, and Liz Cheney. I think there is a possibility that they have, if anybody could pull it off, of the ones that I know, those would be the three that I would pick one of those three.
Bernie could advise them. See, I think, like, you know, when this shit happened last time, like, we made a new political party.
Yeah.
Can our country make a new political party that's that doesn't have these like issues, that's more about like, let's all agree on some stuff like civil rights and fair elections, like basic stuff. Like, it doesn't have
too many people,
abortion or like whatever.
I think too many people are absolutely certain that can't work.
Well, people all argue that, you know, you're throwing your vote away if it goes to a third party. You know, unless we have instant runoff or some other system that's going to be we're going to have the same problems with people not wanting to vote for a third party because they don't want to Trump.
What do they call the system where you have actually three choices?
Instant runoff. Yeah.
I mean, and it's both parties. It's not, you know, well, you're a Democrat, so you can only vote in the Democratic Republican primary.
Yeah, I mean, you could even have five
your
choices
top three,
if you don't know the last two.
Yeah, I think that's a decent system.
It can be done.
Yeah.
Then you can vote for who you actually want to vote for.
What'd you say, Ariel?
Oh, then I'm just saying, then you can actually vote for who you want rather than just based on who you don't want without having to worry that your vote is going to cause Trump or whatever asshole to win.
Yeah, I would love that if we could do it.
There's a couple of states.
I would just be happy to have one fucking candidate that was able to say, hey, we agree on this, and this. Whether you're this party or that party, we all agree on these things. Let's vote for that shit and get that shit taken care of. And then we can move on to other stuff. Yeah. Just one guy that could say, let's do this. Because if you can do that, then you can start bringing everybody together.
But the
maybe
problem
the Democratic Party could just rebrand.
Yeah.
You know, if it's not possible to have three and we'd have to change too much in this immediate moment, they could be like, you know what, we fucked up. This is really intense. We're gonna like change our platform and this is what we're about to, and we're gonna like reel back the extremism in these ways to just put more people on board because we realize that these are the clear things we need to do.
You're right.
But I mean,
that's the best way to do it. If you could find that one candidate, they could bring enough people, excuse me, that are conservative and liberal together
Yeah.
Well, the Libertarian Party just dropped the part of their platform that was pro-choice, and also the part that said,
What?
yes,
They're
And-
against regulation in general.
Yeah.
right.
That's what kills me is the fucking Republicans that keep talking about smaller government, smaller government. We don't want the government telling us what to do. And what the fuck are they doing? I mean, that's their whole platform is you people have to do what we want you to do. And we are the government. Fuck you. Sorry.
But there's a method to their madness. So if you think about it, they're basically dismantling government,
Yeah.
so that the religious people, those very few people that are actually in government that have power, are able to tell other people what to do.
Well, I want to see all the school teachers now, all of the Muslim and Jewish and all of the other faiths start
Don't
doing
forget
prayer in
Satanists.
school.
Right. Well, they also dropped, the Libertarian Party also dropped the part of their platform that declares racism as like repugnant and something else. Yeah, they dropped that. So that just happened at their convention.
So you're saying they've joined the Republican Party?
Yes. As they always kind of wanted to do, I feel.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt.
Well, you
It's
can
kind
say
of like,
whatever you
this
want
is
to,
really
but I do
interesting.
not think the Republican Party anymore is about small government. I honestly and truly believe that the Republican Party has become a theocracy, and that's the way they want this country to be.
Yeah.
If
That's
the
it.
Republican
Agreed.
Party, if the Republican Party would support having sex with children, the Libertarians would all join them.
Ouch.
But they actually do. I mean, isn't there a woman that just got 20 years in prison for doing that?
I'm sorry?
Providing young girls for different people. What's her name?
Oh,
Ghislaine
Maxwell.
Maxwell.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
And here, okay,
Ghislaine-
so this is
Ghislaine
something that
Maxwell.
pissed me off too. So she got 20 years for this, for providing these women for anyway. And
Well, I
what's his
think
name?
her
R.
clients-
Kelly. R. Kelly got 30 years.
Ghislaine Maxwell's clients were of different political parties. That
Yeah, I
wasn't
know.
anything
I know.
particular.
But what I'm saying is she got 20 years for doing that. And
Right.
R. Kelly got 30 years. And
Right.
the only difference I can see between the two is the color of their skin.
I mean,
And-
he was
What?
I think he was pimping people and he was doing things to people.
right. He was actually physically assaulting children.
Okay,
And
there's
so it's
okay.
so
John,
actually assaulting children is worse than providing children
there are
for someone to
differences.
yeah.
there are big differences in those two cases. Number one, he's a black male, but number two, he recorded his shit.
Yeah.
So
Over
there
a
were
long
more
period of
witnesses.
time.
Yeah. So he put himself in that position. And, you know, we know that our justice system is basically, if you're a black male in this system, you're probably going to get a harsher sentence than
Right.
a
And
female.
that was only my point.
White-
Yeah.
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is he did record this shit. So
Right.
he put him, that's worth a good 10 years right there for being that fucking stupid.
Well, and
Okay,
I think they
so
did
they
different
tacked on
crimes.
10 years for
Also.
stupidity. I get it.
What'd you say,
I
Rachel?
think they also committed different crimes.
Yeah, I mean that you know, basically there is a difference, but there were a lot of similarities in the concept behind what they were doing. I guess.
But I think what we're not like seeing in this maybe is that like, here's a woman and a black dude who got punished for doing this. But what about all their clientele, all the white dude clientele that they serviced, that she serviced? They're not in jail.
Yeah, she was basically
Most of them,
a
I'm
pimp.
sure, in Congress.
Right?
Yeah, she
and
was
we'll see that
basically
you get
a
out in
pimp,
5
and he
years
was
if you
basically-
keep your
he was-
mouth shut. Yeah.
She was a pimp. He was an active participant.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, different crimes.
Yes. But for both crimes, and generally like for sex crimes in general, especially children, the sentences that we have here are pretty
Stupid.
shockingly, yeah. This is like these are pretty good. Like this doesn't generally happen. I mean, these were pretty extreme cases, but I think most of the time that somebody gets busted for crimes, like for a crime against a child, they don't even do any actual like prison time. And if they do, it's 2 years, 5 years. It's
But you
pretty
know
bad.
what's really sad about that though, Tally, is that when you look at, you're absolutely right. When you look at the penalties for specific crimes like that in this country, that tells more about our moral decline as a nation than almost anything else. And it makes me very sad.
On that subject, though, on sexual abuse of children and what we were going to get into, this week we had our first 10-year-old in Indiana. She went to Ohio for an abortion because she was 6 weeks and 3 days pregnant. So she had to go to Ohio for an abortion. So
And she was
You say
what,
a
10 years
10-year-old?
old?
she's 10.
Wow.
And who was the father?
That's not clear.
Okay.
Like they haven't like a good for everybody
I mean,
for
I'm
not
sure there's a
actually
lot of-
providing any information about the
Yeah.
girl.
I
But
bet money on a family member.
Yeah, no doubt.
yeah, most likely.
So to me, there was one highlight or high point of the week, and that's when the Pope said, "Fuck you" to the Republican Party, and met with Nancy Pelosi and gave her communion because the guy in San Francisco refused to do it. So I thought that was a pretty cool. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, we need more of that.
Absolutely horrendous that you actually have a group of people that say, no matter how you end up getting pregnant, you have to have that child. So you're basically telling any guy who wants to rape a woman and he have her have his child, he can go and rape her. She's still got to have that child. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm making this too simplistic or whatever, but I just find this so horrifying that somebody can actually impregnate somebody against their will and make them have the fucking child. And the government is literally going to say that's okay. And not only that, they're not even necessarily going to do anything to help that person who's forced to have that baby now.
Yeah, who is
Right.
going to be ostracized because in 9 months she's going to have a kid. She's going to be on welfare. She's going to be, ostracized by the rest of her community because she was forced to have a child.
I've
But
mentioned
that's the way it's
before
always been.
that-
If a woman gets raped, she's just as likely to get ostracized by her own fucking family or by the people in her neighborhood because she got raped.
Yeah.
It wasn't her fault. She didn't do it. It was the person that actually raped her, but she gets ostracized because she's the one that's having the baby.
Right. I've mentioned before that I did my senior year. I went to a school for pregnant girls,
Right.
and one of the girls there, she was probably 11 or so at the time. She already had the baby. She was pregnant at 10 by her uncle. I was shocked. And I've told this story a few times in the last 21 years, and I've never had nobody's ever told me like, oh, good. or that's lovely.
Yeah, like a 10-year-old shouldn't have a child in the first place, and you never,
Right, like
never should have
she-
a child that's been made incestuous.
Well, if
This
she's
was New
not
Mexico.
acceptable to adopt a child, she shouldn't be forced to have one. If a 10-year-old can go and adopt a child, okay, great. Let her adopt a child.
No one should be forced to have one,
Right.
regardless of age.
Right. This
But I'm
was New
saying,
Mexico.
if she tried to adopt a child, they'd say, no fucking way, you're 10 years old. You can't, you're not responsible enough to have a kid. Anyway.
I mean, do you guys feel the whole idea of like, the idea that, you know, that they talked about years ago, like, how do we make it so that our country won't be taken over by minorities, but that America won't be overrun with non-white people? And their biggest solutions were, you know, build a border wall, stop immigration, you know, prevent minorities from voting by making them in the criminal justice system, and force white women to have babies.
I would quote Ronald Reagan on that issue, where he said that immigration is one of the greatest assets to this country, that the diversity of the people that come to this country are what makes this country great. And the Republicans keep talking about how great Reagan is. Well, what about that part? They leave
Well,
that
if we
part
don't
out.
have, if we
That was
don't
when
have
the
enough,
average white supremacist was just hated black people just because, or minorities just because they weren't white.
Right.
Now it's more like we're terrified of them because they might overrun us and have more voting power than us. And so they're going to run the country, and then they're going to do to us what we did to them.
That's exactly right.
if we
exactly
don't
right.
have
right
enough,
now.
if we
Old
don't have
white guys
enough
don't want to be the
resources,
minority.
if we don't have enough resources and gerbs for immigrants, like, why do we want to be having, like, why do we want to be having babies on the scale that we will be?
I mean, it's not that we don't have enough.
It through.
What was that that quote from that? Was it a congresswoman who was speaking at a Trump rally recently and had the gaffe about like that this is a major victory for like thanking Trump for? I'm trying to remember how exactly she put it. Was that?
It was like a major victory for white people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and she said that supposedly she was meaning to say like, you know, reproductive religious rights or something. I don't know, but
yeah,
she's supposed to say right.
like a major victory for the white race.
Are you talking about the one that said that's what Christianity is? It is white supremacists?
No, I'm talking about
no. You're talking about another one.
Yeah, another one.
Ariel, you're right.
So here we had Tina Peters just lost her primary. I guess she was big in national news, but she was county clerk of Mesa, Colorado here, which I don't even know what is there, but she's an election denier or whatever, and she gave passwords and like blueprints or whatever for voting machines to you heard of her?
Yeah,
to like QAnon and some other stuff. I don't know. Basically,
there's a lot of people that are facing charges for like breaking the law around these elections.
Right,
and all Republicans.
Well,
she hired a guy.
All of those phony
electors.
Yeah, they're gonna be facing charges as well.
Right. Well, so she is right now for that, and for identity theft. She hired an IT guy and then never had him come back and kept his badge so she could claim that he was working there, give that to somebody else, and have them like fiddle with voting machines. She did a bunch of stuff. So anyway, she decided
immoral and shitty.
She decided to run for Secretary of State so she could do worse things, I guess. And she just lost her primary to a woman named Pam Anderson, so that's fun. she is presently
I vote for Pam Anderson.
Yeah.
shockingly right now, she is denying her loss and refusing to concede.
You know, it's like we have to
Did
do
you-
something to hold these people accountable at some point or not, but it's the time has come.
Yeah.
I think decency should win. Like, and I think that most people in this country are decent. I don't think I'm wrong in believing that. Maybe lazy, but decent.
Lazy.
As far as what I was talking about a minute ago, it was Mary Miller, representative from Illinois, who called the Roe versus Wade decision a victory for white life. And then
That's
later
what
she
it
was saying
was.
that she meant to say the right to life. But everyone still cheered it, and she didn't correct herself in the moment. And Trump was like standing right behind her.
Oh my
Yeah,
That's
goodness.
exactly what she
What?
meant to say.
So
Are we
bad.
not? Are we just not having Trump testify because everyone knows that he would just lie? I mean, I still
All of
think
his
it would be-
advisory people that have been asked to testify that have agreed have pled the fifth.
Yeah.
And have just repeatedly pled the fifth. They
Wait,
have,
and
and so they're
didn't
refusing because they don't have anything to say that's not self-incriminating.
Yeah,
Didn't
but
Trump say that only criminals and gangsters plead the fifth?
Yeah,
Isn't that a direct
Sorry.
quote from him?
you should know.
Ariel, what were you saying?
yeah, that's what they say. But I mean, but still, do you really think that Trump would be able to resist the urge to mouth off in response to these questions? Like, yeah, he might just plead the fifth, which would make him look incredibly guilty, but I do not think that he has the self-control.
I don't think he has the mental capacity to respond, to understand and respond to any of their questions.
To just
If
have
you've seen
all
any of his
bullshit and avoidances there on record in front of everybody.
if you've seen any of his recent interviews or anything, he cannot put together a cohesive, coherent sentence. He just can't do it. I mean,
Yeah, but
there are
you're
paragraphs
talking,
of just
John, you're talking two different things though. I disagree with you. I think he knows, he can definitely understand the questions that are asked of him. He cannot articulate because he's a fucking idiot,
right.
but he knows exactly what he did. He knows why he did it. He knows what he wants to do. He knows all that shit. He just can't articulate it very well because he's never thought anything out. He literally is that narcissist who does whatever the fuck he wants to, whenever he wants to do it, and he can't really articulate it because he just did it because he felt like doing it, and he expects everybody else to go along with him because he's an entitled asshole. That's
I
Trump.
agree with you, Ariel, that I do think that he would mouth off. And
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Well, there's
He thinks he's the smartest person in the room,
Nixon
even though
quote.
there's nothing that indicates that's actually true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wish I would love to see him like answer some questions ridiculously.
yes.
Like there's the Nixon quote, when the president does it, that means that it's not illegal.
Yeah.
And that goes to like Supreme Court justices, the president, our elected representatives being rapists. You know, do you think that these people really have a problem with rape? They've all been convicted of it, not convicted, accused of it, and have, you know, luckily dodged those accusations or paid people off.
Doesn't Trump have 20-something?
29.
Kavanaugh, Matt Gaetz, like,
Right, well,
he's
Kavanaugh,
one of the ones that tried to overthrow the election. I mean,
The only one who wasn't accused of sexual assault was, what's her name, Amy Cohen Barrett.
And Coney Barrett.
oh,
On the Supreme Court. She's the only of that
Yeah,
group that wasn't accused.
I bet she's participated in some kind of
The one
abuse.
talking
Okay,
about
so-
Jewish space lasers.
do you think it's interesting? I talked before about Mormons supporting types of abortion and supporting women, and so she went against her religion.
Isn't part of the part of the Jewish faith requires abortion in certain cases?
Yes.
That's part of their religious beliefs. It
And
will be
men
interesting.
are-
It will be interesting to see a Jewish woman who has been raped or becomes pregnant and tries to get an abortion and is blocked from getting an abortion, use that argument that this is a requirement of my religious faith. What the fuck are you going to do then, Supreme Court?
Give him the big old fuck you like they have been doing.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the time they'd see it, that person would have had a baby. So it's like,
Right.
they
Well,
better-
well, that's part of the
No,
ridiculous.
but if she went and got the abortion and then they tried to prosecute her for it.
Right. Right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like it's ridiculous because
So,
I mean,
Kelly,
Christians
would you
allegedly.
volunteer to be our test case?
I don't have a uterus.
Oh, that's right.
Otherwise, I would totally go for it.
Ariel, how about you? No, never mind. Yeah.
Same
But
issue.
also, I live in a state that I live in a state that has like the loosest abortion laws in the country. So Christians allegedly believe in the original Bible, right? And like
I think that's a broad. Christians are pretty broad. They have a lot of.
They can pick and choose what
Wait, are you
what they
talking
believe
about?
in out of the Torah.
Are you talking about the original Jesus or the Republican Jesus?
I'm talking about the Torah.
Okay.
Is
I mean, you have
supposed to be-
evangelicals, you have Protestants, you have Catholics, you have
Right.
Mormons. There's a lot of different types of
Don't
Christians.
they all believe in what they call the Old Testament?
Right. And at the beginning of the Old Testament, like, I mean, after Genesis, it's explained that men are not, like God tells Abraham that he can't make decisions about Sarah's reproduction, that that's for her and that he needs to listen to her guidance.
Right, but the
So-
Supreme Court said that they're taking it out because it's not in the Constitution, not because it's not in the Bible.
Right. But their motivation is the
Except
Bible.
when it comes to other things, then we're going to go because the Bible. So
I mean, it's pretty nuts. I think that's all we have time to talk about today. If we can all add some final comments. If you
should
have
I
any.
continue with the Bible lessons? Your
I do
weekly
like the Bible.
lesson.
I like the Bible. I'm happy to hear that anytime.
I have right above me here on the bookshelf, I have 3 Bibles. One was the copyright was from 1931.
Ooh.
The second one was given to me when I was going to Sunday school. You know, you memorize all these verses and they give you a Bible with your name on it in gold and all that shit. And that was
Wait, and was this
copyright
before or after the 1931 copy?
after the 1931 copy. Yeah, thank you for that clarification, Ariel. And that was copyright in 1952. And then I have another one that was copyright that someone gave me or something, left at the studio or some shit like that. That was copyright in 1989. They are all different. If you read the same passage in each one of those Bibles, they are all different.
They're all
For
translations,
sure.
and they're not
So-
the source.
And that's just 3. That's just 3 over, well, Christ, now it's almost 100 years, but wow. So imagine 2,000 years of changes. How many changes have been made?
I'd like to think that, like in a lot of countries that consider themselves Christian, like Scandinavia, Denmark, women do have reproductive rights there and rights to their own bodies, and those are Christian countries, you know. And I don't think that all Christians believe that people shouldn't have abortions. I think that's a modern.
The Catholic Church will not baptize a stillborn child because the Catholic Church says that they are not a person until they've taken their first breath.
Well, shit, then why are we even arguing about this?
Because so a fetus, according to the Catholic Church, is not a person.
But the Catholic Church is anti-abortion, right? So how does that make sense?
That doesn't say that they're not recognizing it as a person,
But
but they
they
are
also still
recognizing
hate
that
women.
it is some life form, like an alien.
Newborns do look like aliens.
What's that? Yeah.
Newborns do look like aliens.
Yeah.
Also,
ugly.
women are bad.
No,
Yeah,
I mean,
I think just people having a right to have autonomy. And I mean, like there's all these blends, right? Like the libertarians are sort of like, don't control us. And, now they're just becoming Republican apparently. But I think like it'd be real nice if we could just all agree that
hey, don't fuck with me.
deserve
I
to
won't fuck
choose
with
for
you.
themselves what they'd like to choose for themselves. Like for their health, for their bodies, what book you want to read a day,
The problem with all this stuff, I don't think there's one really big bad issue that you can look at in this country that the shadow of slavery does not affect it in some way.
Right.
Because I believe that the biggest problem with this country right now is that we have certain moral issues that we will never, ever come to terms with because we don't want to. We will avoid talking about them. It's just like when you go to a therapist and they tell you, if you don't confront your fears, if you don't confront the issues that are bothering you, you can't get better. And that's what I think is going on with this country. It doesn't make any difference whether it's a religious issue. It doesn't matter whether it's a political issue. It doesn't matter what the issue is. There is that ghost of slavery that's always kind of hanging right over our heads about whether a woman reproduces, whether she has autonomy. Because when you look at all the other countries that are similar to our country and they don't have those problems, it's also because they didn't have slavery either. And I really think that slavery affects every decision that we make about every fucking thing that goes on in this country, because we won't talk about it, we won't fix it.
Do you think it's just because we're indoctrinated, like not everybody, but do you think it's like the old white man slave owner power still dominates our culture here in so many of these states where it's like,
well, it's the concept. Okay, look at what they're saying. They want to go back to the traditionalists. They want to go back to the old Constitution. Well, the old Constitution was by a bunch of white guys that hadn't even give power to vote for women. They thought slavery was okay. If you weren't a rich homeowner, you weren't really allowed to vote or have any say in the government. They're talking about going back to that. How in the hell can you sit there and say, we want to go back to the old Constitution when you're talking about guys that had no idea what fucking electricity was or how
no, they're saying we want old white people to be in charge.
Yeah.
Old white men.
I mean, I've always said that the Civil War has sore losers.
How many of these rights that are being taken away or things that are being restricted by the Supreme Court now could just be codified by Congress?
I think they all could if Congress turned them into laws.
Yeah. So we need Congress to get off their ass and make this happen.
Well,
the Democrats need 4 votes.
Well, let's start writing letters to people and trying to pick out who those 4 people are going to be that are going to switch sides and like make some stuff happen, because this isn't good.
I think we should plan a trip to Washington, the 5 of us, and we go before Congress and tell them what the fuck.
I like that. On that note,
we need an exotic pet. We need an exotic pet. They
like a tortoise?
Is it huge?
No.
No, we need like a baby tiger or something. You guys saw Tiger King, right?
Ooh.
Oh God, yeah.
Right? All of the Congress people and senators and whatever, they all wanted to pet that tiger.
How about like
that
30
gets you a
capybaras?
Conversation?
Maybe
how about what?
30 capybaras that lead us in on a sled.
Sugar cones.
I love it.
Yeah, something.
Capybaras.
There's a real way.
How about a sloth? Everybody
week,
likes sloths.
Good show, guys. We'll see you again next week, and we'll talk about some more crazy stuff, because I'm sure some more stuff will happen.
God, wouldn't it be nice if it didn't?